What's up guys, Mickle here, and things are officially falling apart. We just had the 6th largest bank in the entire United States go bankrupt, and this is a bank that was working with some of the most innovative tech companies in the entire world. In this video, I want to go over the implications of what's happening right now, because this is not going to be a one-off event. This is going to have implications for the entire financial sector. I also want to talk about what cryptocurrency related companies were involved in this, because we know this bank was dealing with a lot of crypto startups, including potentially companies like Ripple and Circle. I want to talk about whether or not these two high flyers are in danger because of this most recent bankruptcy. This is something you are definitely going to want to see. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. If you want to see more videos just like this, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button down below and turn on bell notifications. These 3 simple things go such a long way in helping this channel grow, and it really does mean so much to me. If you guys ever need a good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange, Uphold, down in the description of this video. With that said though, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So I want to start out this video and do a quick overview of exactly what's going on right here, because we just watched the 6th largest bank in the entire United States go bankrupt, and there is no doubt this is going to have massive implications for the entire financial sector going forward. So this is right after we actually watched Silvergate go down, and a lot of people were saying, oh, Silvergate went under because of FTX, it was a bunch of crypto issues, but now we had SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, go down, and they were really just dealing with tech startups and really didn't have much exposure to cryptocurrencies themselves. Now, they do deal with some cryptocurrency related companies, but for the large part, they were really dealing with a lot more Silicon Valley companies than specifically crypto companies. Now, this is at the same exact time we are seeing banks like Credit Suisse and some others, including Charles Schwab, also have some issues as well. So there is no doubt there is something big going on the back end of our financial system, and a lot of these banks are not able to take it anymore. Most people are speculating that the reason we're seeing this is because the Federal Reserve jacked up rates so fast. The Federal Reserve brought interest rates up from 0% to about 5% in a very fast amount of time. It was the fastest rate hike in history, and for a while we really weren't seeing implications. But for a while we really didn't see any implications of the extremely fast rate hikes. Well, now we're starting to see the effects of these rate hikes, and that is exactly what is bringing the banking sector to its knees right now. Now, I think it's important that I show you this quick clip, because this is going to give you a good understanding of the main issues in our banking system. It's extremely complex, and we're not going to be able to get into all of it in this video, but I think after listening to this, you guys are going to have a much better idea of why the banking system is such a fragile network, and why we're seeing issues like this right now when interest rates simply went from 0.4% to 5%. Listen up to this, and we're going to quickly break it down in a very easy way to understand.
It is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. To add to that problem, you have moral hazard, a very significant moral hazard from the political sphere. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. And until we start sending bankers, and I include central bankers and politicians, to prison for this outrage, it will continue.
So essentially what's happening right now is these banks were so used to having easy money, low interest rates, they were making pretty risky deals and just assuming it wouldn't be a big deal. Now for a while they got away with this with 0% interest rates, but as soon as interest rates were jacked up to 5%, well suddenly things started to come toppling down. Now what we're really seeing here is as simple as the fact that SVB was using a lot of its customers' money to do different things and buy different securities. Now, this is almost exactly what happened with FTX, only in our regulated financial system. It kind of just shows you the things that happened with FTX weren't really a crypto issue. People just do dumb things, and it's not fraudulent to do what they were doing. They met what they needed to do to be a regulated bank. But at the end of the day, if everyone wants their money at once, you can't give them their money at once because they didn't have the money to do that. They were using the money for their own needs. So essentially everyone got scared that this bank was going to have issues. They all ran to the door to get their money out, and now suddenly they don't have any money to give out. It's as simple as that, but it really stems from the fact that central banks can just change the interest rate whenever they want, and a lot of these banks get so used to low interest rate, they're just simply not equipped to be dealing with a tighter financial system. So now you're probably thinking, okay, well, this bank I never heard of, I guess it's pretty big, went under. What's the big deal? Why does this impact the entire economy? Well, a lot of Silicon Valley startups had a lot of money in this bank, and a lot of them were depending on this bank for payroll. I read a stat that this bank is going to have a direct implication on close to 150,000 startups in this country. That is absolutely wild, and none of these startups had anything to do with this bank going under. They simply trusted the fact that this bank would meet its obligations, this bank would hold their money, and they would be able to get it out when they wanted. But that is not the case, and now it's going to have a rippling effect through the entire startup industry. So now to what a lot of you guys are probably wondering, and what I was wondering as well. Is Ripple going to take massive losses from using SVB? Now, I don't have a definite answer, but I think we can break this down and at least get some reassurance here. First, it's important to note that I don't think even if Ripple had all their cash with SVB, they would be in big trouble. And that's because they have so much XRP. The XRP cannot be stolen by some corrupt bank or fractional reserve banking. And that's the whole promise of crypto. You hold your keys, you hold your money, you don't have to rely on a third party. So even if Ripple was to lose all the money they had, which probably isn't what happened, I doubt that happened, I don't even think it could kill them because they actually hold their own value. It's the promise of cryptocurrency, and I think that cannot be understated here. It really shows how powerful this new financial system is. A lot of people like to make the argument, oh, why would I use cryptocurrency? My financial system works fine for me now. Yeah, it works fine for you until something goes wrong. This is the exact reason cryptocurrencies were created. It's because these poor startups just got these lines of capital from this bank they were told was trustworthy, and then it all disappears with the snap of a finger, and it had nothing to do with them. So to start things off, I really don't think even if Ripple had all their money with this bank, they would be very affected by it. Now, it's important to follow that up and say, I doubt Ripple even had most of their money with this bank. And that's because Ripple's very international at this point. They likely have to have banks all over the world. So even if Ripple was to have had an account with this bank, I doubt it could have been anything significant because most of their business is done outside the United States. So I really don't think this is going to have any massive implication at Ripple. It's important to point out too, Ashish Burla, who is on the board of Ripple, was also putting out some tweets in relation to Circle. Now, Circle did have an account at SVB, and it looks like they could have lost a decent amount of money. Now, the Circle peg hasn't gotten hit yet, so it doesn't look like there's any loss of confidence going on. I have a feeling Circle's going to be okay. Most of their money was actually with BY and Mellon, but why I point this out is because I don't know if Ashish Burla would really be putting tweets out like this if Ripple was also impacted by SVB. Just something to consider. Overall, it looks like Ripple did dodge a bullet here, but it looks like a lot of other companies out there aren't going to be so lucky. Now, the main reason why I think this is so interesting is because this is really the problem Ripple solves. This is the problem with our current financial system. It works until it doesn't. It's fragile, it breaks, and all these companies were relying on a bank that never actually had their money. It's the same exact thing that happened in 2008, and the problem never got solved. The reason why these same things are happening is because there hasn't been any updates to our financial system. We're using the same old legacy, outdated technology, and it's just not sufficient anymore. The money moves too slow. Nothing's transparent. No one knows what's going on the back end, and that's why you have risks like this, and you see this entire system fall apart when one bank goes under. When you have these centralized systems, all it takes is one CEO of one bank to make a mistake, and then everything falls apart. No one owns their own value. The money is moving slow, it's getting clogged up, and no one can see what's happening, what that bank is doing with the money on their back end. This bank could have been doing anything they wanted with the money and no one would have known about it because the solution isn't transparent. This is exactly why we need blockchain technology. This is exactly why this financial system desperately needs an upgrade. And I have a feeling, as sad as it is, as bad as I feel for a lot of these startups who are going to get screwed over by this, I really do think this is going to be a catalyst for change. I think it's going to show why we need these upgrades to our financial system, because stuff like this shouldn't be happening in the era we're in. We should have solved these things after 2008, and honestly, this is why Bitcoin was made. It was to solve things like this, and yet here we are 15 years later still having these same problems. The good news is Ripple's going to be okay. They're going to escape this. The bad news is a lot of companies who aren't as lucky are going to get caught up in the middle of this. I really do hope there's some solution they figure out over this coming weekend. I hope some bank is able to buy them out or the government's able to step in and bail out a lot of the startups. Look, I'm not advocating for this bank to get bailed out. I'm advocating for the startups to get bailed out. They didn't deserve to lose their money. They didn't know what was happening on the back end. And it's really unfortunate to see all these startups just get screwed over with an event like this. It really shouldn't be happening in our financial system. We should have fixed this a long time ago, but I hope this gives all of you a better understanding of the problems cryptocurrencies are solving. It's not some made up problem. People like to make it sound like our financial system right now works great. There's no problems with it. This is direct proof that that is completely wrong. Yes, it works good when money's easy, when times are easy, when there's no stress on the system, but as soon as we have the slightest hiccup, things start to fall apart, and that's why we need cryptocurrency solutions. Anyway, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. It really does mean so much. And for now, Mickle out.